Check it out. It's the Laugh to Learn podcast. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Laugh to Learn podcast. My name is, of course, Jacob Paveo, and I come to you from the Great White North each and every Wednesday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, fresh for download to listen to the entire world around. Thank you all so much for your support. The last episode was the biggest episode that I have ever put out, so shout out to you all. Welcome back if you're coming back. If it's your first time, welcome to the show. You know what to do. You can hit those subscribe buttons wherever you happen to be. Follow buttons, depends where you are. And don't forget to come back each and every week. If you're listening over on Spotify, shout out to you. You can add me to your library, and then that helps because 51% of people are listening on Spotify, which is pretty cool. So shout out to Spotify. I think I was showing up in some podcast charts over this week, which is friggin' exciting. I was so hyped about that. I don't know what I did differently, but shout out to you all. I've been on the grind for a while, so thank you for checking it out. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you liked it. And it's more of the same this week because we are going to be talking about the Canadian debates. I figure we should just get right into it. You know, you can find my links down below. You can find me on social media. It's all there, right? www.laughtolearnpodcast.com/store. You know where to find this stuff. Anyways, this week is all about the federal election because this coming Monday, September 20th, is the election. So, of course, each and every election, there have now been two federal and two provincial. Two federal and one provincial, since my time with the Laugh to Learn podcast. But going back in time, if you're one of the OGs, of course, I have always told people who I was voting for, going all the way back to my college radio days. So I always make it public, and that is what we are going to get into in this episode. But first, we've got to get through the debate. So last week, the French language debate was, I think it was, this is how scatterbrained my mind is. I should have mentioned this off the top. I didn't have an episode last week because I had insane wisdom tooth pain. Again, if you've been listening for a while, last year I missed 3 weeks in a row because of this. I have a wisdom tooth that they can't pull out. And once in a while, just like a shitty boyfriend can't pull out. So every once in a while, it really starts to bother me, and that happened. So I literally couldn't talk for a few days. I had to run a few meetings through work, and I literally had ice pressed to my face until I had to go on camera to get the swelling down as much as I can. So if my voice still sounds a little funny, the left side of my mouth is a little swollen, so I'm talking a little odd, but it's much better now, and I'm feeling good. So it kind of sucks because I have my biggest episode ever, and then I literally couldn't talk the next week to follow it up. So unfortunately, here we are, 2 weeks on from that. But on Wednesday last week, we had the French language debate. On Thursday, we had the English language debate. Now, the French debate, I had every intention of watching the whole thing, but to be perfectly honest with you, the topics were not interesting. And I think this is a huge issue, and I've seen a few people online, especially individuals from Quebec, who are really upset with the French language debate because it just didn't have the substance that the English language debate did. And if you look at the highlights, my French is very poor. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I could watch the entire debate without a translation. I could probably get by if I really wanted to, but I would miss a lot of it. And so essentially, I just watched like the highlights, and I also have to watch it because it's a lot of French-specific issues and Quebec-specific issues that are brought up. Like, one of the big things was that the province of Quebec does not want a pipeline going through there. So one of the big topics was this pipeline going through Quebec, and Erin O'Toole said in the French debate that he would promise not to put a pipeline through Quebec. Now, this is a huge deal because, of course, under Trudeau, the plans have gone forward to get this pipeline going through Quebec. And realistically speaking, at the federal level, Quebec is they either vote for the Bloc or they vote Liberal. There's a few small areas that might get an NDP or a Conservative vote, but they're basically irrelevant parties in the province. So Erin O'Toole is clearly trying to get the Conservatives pushed and gain seats in Quebec by making this promise. The thing was, fast forward to the English debate, and this is the topic I want to start with because I think it's the biggest deal, because it became really obvious when questioned about it, because, of course, when O'Toole was confronted with the decision, let's call it, of either stating openly that he would stop any pipeline from going through Quebec in English, okay, because Yves Blanchet, the Bloc leader, said, I want to hear Erin O'Toole say this in English. He said it on the French debate, and then on the English debate, he straight up said it. And he looked at Erin O'Toole and he said, say it. And Erin O'Toole couldn't say it because the way the debate was structured, and then the question never came back around, and O'Toole never made the promise in English, which means he's basically fucking over what he had said earlier on the French debate. Now, this leads me to my number one issue with the Canadian debate. If you recall, in the fall of last year, the American debates, I don't understand why moderators talk so much during a debate. I genuinely think that they're selecting moderators who, like, don't get me wrong, I was never on I don't even think my high school had a debate team, but I was never on any debate team or anything like that, but as a fan of politics, as a fan of Canadian and American political history specifically, I've watched essentially every televised debate, and I've listened to most radio debates that have decent recording qualities where you can really hear it. Some of them, unfortunately, are no good. But either way, I've gone back and done this because I think it's fun to do. I did it when I was in school because I had a lot of time on my hands in college and university. And I think for some reason, the moderators nowadays feel like they're being put in this position of power, and to them, this is their platform where they can challenge these leaders. So, unfortunately, the last time I did a debate topic on the Canadian debates, I got pulled off of a lot of services because I played clips. For some reason, the American politics, I can play clips and I don't get pulled down off of different services, but I do with Canadian stuff. So I don't want to try it because my numbers are looking really good right now and I don't want to disappear off of certain platforms. But anyways, that's just for your information. That's why I'm not going to be playing clips today, unfortunately. But what it comes down to for me is the moderators feel like, or they appear to feel like, this is their platform and this is their moment. The very first question of the day that was proposed to Trudeau, he was given 45 seconds. I went back and timed it, and the moderator, during those 45 seconds, argued with him, not allowing him to speak, for about 10 or 11 of those 45 seconds, meaning all of a sudden the Prime Minister went down to 34 seconds of time. And then he goes over time because he's trying to answer his question, and then he gets cut off. And literally, I yelled out loud, "What the fuck are you doing?" please don't let it be like this. I yelled it out loud. I was lying in bed watching it on my computer because, yes, I go to bed early. So I was trying to stay awake watching this in bed on my laptop. And full out, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be another one. Just like we discussed with the American election back in the fall. It's going to be another moderator-driven, annoying as hell debate where instead of talking and debating amongst themselves, they're going to be debating the moderator. And 110% that's what happened. And to be perfectly honest with you, it completely ruins the debate to the point that, this election, my brother and my sister-in-law have decided that they're going to vote in this election. They're not spring chickens. They're not young, but they've never voted in an election before. And usually, like, even if this were the last election, I would have said, like, here, watch the highlights from the debate. Here's the party platforms, blah, 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 right? Like, I love introducing people to politics, and those are the means that I go about telling people to decide, help them make their decision on who to vote for. And full out, I would never, ever recommend anyone watch this debate. I just wouldn't. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. The substance just wasn't there. They weren't allowed to debate with one another. She kept cutting them off. So, if you've ever watched a debate, even if you haven't, I'm sure you can imagine what it's made up of. One person is asked a question, they begin their answer, and as with politics in general, they start talking shit about someone else on the stage because they don't want you to vote for that person. They want you to vote for themselves. So they say, this is why I'm good and this is why that person's bad. And then they always loop it around to, and this is why you should vote for me instead of them. It's literally like politics 101. That's how you answer questions in this format. You say, this is my idea. This is why their idea is wrong, therefore you wrap it around to vote for me and you talk about yourself at the end. Every single person who knows anything about political, the way to structure a political answer knows that. You always have to swing it back around to yourself, because then at the end of the conversation, the individual you're speaking to or whatever is thinking about you and thinking poorly about them. And it's a psychological way of answering a question, structuring an answer to a question. She wouldn't let them do it. Every time they would give their idea, they would say why the other individual's idea is incorrect, and they would start swinging it back around to themselves. She would say, hold on, let them respond. But they never had a chance to finish their own answer. So then this other person is responding. And the reason I keep saying, like, this other person, it's not like there was a specific time where, like, Trudeau said this about Erin O'Toole and she cut him off and said, oh, let the conservative leader answer. It happened with everybody. The entire way through. No one ever finished an answer. She just kept interrupting them and allowing someone else to jump in and then wouldn't allow them to finish their answer. It was the most odd debate. And, going into it, I had been honest on the podcast that I hadn't really made my decision about who to vote for. I had actually told one of my buddies that 100% this is how I'm going to make my decision, is based on the debates. And because of the moderator, I didn't get enough substance. I just didn't. There was nothing that I was able to pull from it. However, there were a few things that, although they didn't help me make my decision, I was certainly able to pull from it. So my second note is that I think we're supposed to feel bad that the Green Party isn't popular. So, right now, the Green Party is really, really hurting. Like, really, really hurting in Canada. Annamie Paul, the current leader, is really, really confused. She looked like she didn't belong on the stage. Her answers were all over the board. And at one point, and no one's talking about this, and I think the reason no one's talking about this is because, sorry, I just stuttered because I suddenly got a news thing that Annemie Paul, just as I start mentioning her, says she considered stepping down as Green Party leader. I thought it said that she has stepped down. So she hasn't stepped down, sorry. That totally caught my eye and made me all confused. My phone's listening to me again. But at one point, she said that she understands the struggle of the native population in Canada, or the Aboriginal or First Nations population, whatever word she used. You know what I'm talking about. And I was like, what the fuck? You can't say that. Like, if anyone else said, it's literally, I love touring, no, I shouldn't say touring, but I love visiting reserves and stuff like that. I go fairly often. Just before COVID, I went as far north in Ontario as you can go. I went with my friends up to Moose Jaw and Moosonee, and it's a beautiful place with a rich cultural history. It's like the original Hudson's Bay Company location is up there, and it's nearly an entirely indigenous population, and the people are incredible and amazing to talk to, and it's just such a great experience. I love it. But it's something that, like, even myself, I get offended by someone saying that they understand the struggle of the indigenous population. Like, what? Because you're black? You said for some reason that means you understand what it's like to grow up somewhere without clean water, or without access to education or electricity, or cell phone access, like, or a highway. You, for some reason, because you just understand that. I simply don't believe you. I simply don't believe you. And for her to say that was like, holy fuck. You don't know what you're doing. And if she had any chance, she's probably going to lose her local riding, but if she had any chance of being successful, if her party had any chance of being successful in this election, she would have been torn apart in the papers. She would have been torn apart in the debates for saying that. Because if you didn't watch the debate, a First Nations man asked a question about why he should trust government. And basically her answer was like, I understand how rough it is for you. I understand what it's like to be forgotten because my parents are from a place too that's forgotten, and I feel your struggle, and I understand why you wouldn't trust the government. And it's like, what the fuck? You can't say that. Like, you're literally a candidate for prime minister, and you are not Indigenous. You cannot relate to this man. You simply cannot relate to this man. And for some reason, she's pretending to, and it upset me more than anything. And at that point, I was like, thank God the Green Party's not on my list to vote for, because that put a huge X across it. And Annemie Paul is a horrible candidate. She has no idea what she's doing. Like, could you imagine if Trudeau said that, or if Erin O'Toole said that, or even Jagmeet Singh, who, like, genuinely, as both a visible and a religious minority, right? He may have some sort of story that he could relate to this individual, but he would never go there. He's way too smart to go there. He's not an idiot. And clearly Annemie Paul is. So the Green Party, big X, just horrible. My third note from the debate, and I'm not going to go through specific points because I have the whole election platform from last week and nothing really changed in the debate. But either way, my third point is that Jagmeet Singh is hilarious. And he made me laugh out loud a total of 3 times because he can speak so much more openly. And this is the thing that I like about the NDP, is they run their party in a very different way than everyone else, than every other party is run. Because he has fun with it. He can joke, but he openly made fun of Trudeau and O'Toole the whole way through. Like, whenever they would say something ridiculous or contradict themselves, he would be like, "What? You didn't say that? Like, let's roll back the clock. Show the clip." Like, he was doing stuff like that. That was hilarious. And I like how fun he is and completely comfortable, completely at home. Honestly, Jagmeet Singh, I talk about it all the time. I can't vote for him because he cried at the blackface thing. And talking with my brother about it just yesterday, he thinks that it was a really good political move. I think it was a horrible political move. Because it's obviously fake crying and whatnot, and I don't want to see you in a room with Vladimir Putin. But I've talked about that on the podcast before, so I'm not going to focus on it now. But the way he runs his party is so good. It's so good, and I so badly want to see the NDP merge with the Liberal Party and take the good ideas from both, and the strong, like, they both, especially the NDP though, has fantastic leadership right now, while the Liberals don't. But they almost agree on everything. And like when they debated back and forth, like, they're debating about fine minutia, like very minute details in their green policy. The NDP have some far more liberal policies when it comes to eliminating student debt and stuff like that. But I think both parties could merge. And I've said this before, and I will say it again. If the Conservatives come away with a minority government that a combined Liberal NDP would surpass, they will. They will form a coalition government. They may even form a coalition with the Bloc. I wouldn't be surprised to see it. But certainly, if the Liberal and NDP can form enough seats to overtake a Conservative minority government, they will form a coalition together, and I'm saying that right now. I would be very surprised if the Conservatives win a minority, which I don't think they have a chance at a majority, but I would be very surprised if they win a minority that they last more than 3 months, is what I'll say. But time will tell. The fourth point that I had is that we really deserve a debate between Liberal, Conservative, and NDP governments. I've already said my piece on the Green Party. I just think at this point in time, the Green Party is not an organized platform. There are currently 3 members of parliament, or 2 members of parliament, something like that, for the Green Party. I talked about this on the last episode. And there are 5 independents. So the independents make up more seats in the House than the Green Party, and I don't think you should have this platform if that's the case. I think the Bloc they certainly deserve a national debate, but Yves Blanchet made it so clear he does not want to be prime minister, and he has no way. There's no option for him to be prime minister. They only have candidates in Quebec, and you can't win that way. He made it very clear, just to throw it back to the moderator, his first question of the night. Literally, she said, "If you become prime minister, blah blah blah," whatever the question was. And he looked at her and said, "Well, I have no intention of becoming Prime Minister of Canada." Like, that was literally his answer. And then he just looked at her. And then she's like, "Okay, well, what about if you gain power in Quebec?" And then he answered the question. But it's just to be blunt, the Bloc is a specific party for Quebecers to represent Quebec at the national level in Ottawa. And they vote with whatever party they agree with. It tends to be the Liberal Party, but they can swing Conservative on some issues, and they have in the past, and they will in the future, right? They are their own thing, and he won't be prime minister. So I think if you eliminate the Bloc and the Green Party and give 2 hours of open, true debate without a moderator talking at all, just give them 20 minutes to go back and forth on issues, in a 2-hour debate, and say there's 20 minutes of commercial time. So you have 100 minutes of debate, 5 topics, 20 minutes each. here's the topic and go, and just let them go. And maybe the moderator, if too many people are talking, can say, okay, one at a time. You know what I mean? But no moderator talking. Just let Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, and Erin O'Toole openly debate the 5 most voted on issues, whatever they are. That would be exactly what we need. Exactly what we need. And that's no shade to the Bloc or the Green Party. They're just not at the level of those 3 other parties. They're just not there. So put those 3 together. And as a side note, Erin O'Toole, they drew where they were standing. Erin O'Toole was way over to the right of the stage, and Annamie Paul was in the middle. It was like they should have been switched. Why do you put the current leader in the polls at the side of the stage? It was absolutely ridiculous the way they had this set up. And then the camera angles were all weird because they knew they had to show Erin O'Toole on TV more than they had to show Annamie Paul. She was going to get less speaking time anyways. So, just a weird thing. And about the speaking time, I hated the fact that they had the clock on the wall. I think it was such a mistake showing how long every person had spoken, because it made it seem like, and I mean, the rules are that everyone gets an even amount of time to talk. That's ridiculous when you have 5 people who are polling. One in particular in the Green Party is polling below 5%, and then you have 2 parties in the Liberal and Conservative who are polling, between like 30 and 40%. The NDP's around 20. The Bloc probably falls somewhere around like 10%. And so there's this wide gap in how popular these individuals are, and they're all given an equal amount of time. That's ridiculous. It shouldn't work that way. It just shouldn't. And people are like, well, it has to be fair, and that's the party I support, and I want to hear from them. That's fine. Go to their events. But get people more interested in them. The debates, it's too late. At this point, we're just making our final choice. It was something like 13% of Canadians were considered undecided voters, which I think is insane. I have no idea how anyone has decided, or had at that point, decided who to vote for going into the debate. But either way, I mean, a lot of my friends tell me like I'm kind of crazy for having not decided yet. But we'll get to that in a second. But either way, I just think it's asinine that they had that clock on the wall, because then towards the end, both Yves Blanchet and Annamie Paul kept saying, well, I haven't had enough time and I deserve the right to talk. And then, they did. They would just start talking. And at one point, Annamie Paul, like, full on tried to pull the race card on Yves Blanchet, and they were doing a one-on-one debate, or they had these weird segments where they would like break out 2 people would debate about something, then the other 3 would debate about something, and it should not happen. It was a fucking disaster. I have no idea why they did that, but they kept doing it, and it shouldn't happen again. And Yves Blanchet literally looked at her and was basically like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally represent Quebec, and the moderator got on board and was saying that a recent law that was passed in Quebec, which I'm not going to get into, I don't want to even say my opinion on it because I haven't read up enough. I've started to, but I'm not informed enough on the law to have an opinion. But the moderator and Annamie Paul said that a law he supports, Yves Blanchet, the leader of the Bloc, a law he supports in Quebec is racist and prejudiced against visual and especially religious minorities. And basically he was like, no, it's not. He started defending the law and arguing, and then Annamie Paul full on tries to pull the race card, and then he says like the law has nothing to do with race. It's a law about freedom of religion, is what he said. And I'm not saying that I agree or not, like I said. But he said it's a law about freedom of religion, not about being a visual minority. And she full on tries to pull the race card on him, and he just like gives a full 180 and goes like full on attack mode and destroys her. And then she pulls the woman card, and she like tried to make it seem like he was talking down a woman and mansplaining to her. And then the moderator agrees with Anime Paul and is like basically says, "I can't believe you would do that." It was like the most fucking weird shit ever. And literally all the other guys on stage are like looking at them like, what the fuck is happening? Like obviously the leader of the Bloc Québécois is going to defend laws passed in Quebec. And Quebec is a nation within a nation under Canadian law. Harper passed that several years, over a decade ago now. And they have the right to pass these laws. And they're debating Quebec legislation on a national debate stage, and then saying that he's mansplaining to them. It was like I don't even know where I'm going with this. It was just weird. Like, it was such a weird moment where I was like, how does someone get onto the national debate stage, get clearly shown that she doesn't know what she's talking about, so she pulls the race card and the woman card all at once, and she's a black female, just if you were unaware, and like, for some reason, people, like, agree with it, but then you go online, and everyone's like, well, what the fuck is she doing? Like, it's just a weird time. Yeah, I don't know. The Green Party and the Bloc shouldn't have been there, is my point, and I really want to see a debate. It won't happen, of course, between Trudeau, O'Toole, and Singh. The fifth note that I have is Jody Wilson-Raybould, who, of course, is the former Attorney General of Canada. She was dismissed after the SNC Lavalin trials, which, of course, you can hear me talk about in some old episodes. I think I did 2 full episodes, including one really, really big episode on it, if you're interested. Essentially, to break the story down, if you're unaware, as Attorney General, she was approached by people close to the Prime Minister and asked to get involved and protect individuals who were his friends from getting charged at SNC Lavalin. Her book came out yesterday. I was supposed to get it last night, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I actually have to check my Amazon shipping to see what's going on. I actually got an Amazon notice. Nope, not here yet. So I'm kind of disappointed because I wanted to at least read some of the book before the podcast this week, but still waiting for it to get here. My point is, though, is that Jody Wilson-Raybould was brought up over and over again by the Conservatives and by the Green Party, and once or twice by the NDP. And my issue with this is that Jody Wilson-Raybould, she's now an independent in federal government. She left the Liberal Party. She was kicked out of cabinet, fired from cabinet, and she lost her Liberal funding, as I'm sure many of you recall. But my thing was, I would wait to read the book before talking about her like your hero, which the rest of them are all doing, because you have no idea what she's going to say. And I guarantee you she has shit, maybe not on Anime Paul and the Green Party, because they're not really relevant enough, but I'm sure she has shit that would shock people about the NDP and the Conservative government. Stuff that's kind of kept under wraps and, you know, in private conversations. So I found that interesting, that especially Erin O'Toole was talking about her as this brave hero. And she is a native. Her book title, I think, is The Indian in the Cabinet, because, of course, she's in the Prime Minister's cabinet. And she's native Indian, not, Indian like the country. At least as far as I'm aware. I've never actually thought about that. I'm pretty sure she's First Nations. Jody Wilson-Raybould. Should probably look this up, especially with... Yeah, she's like native. She's Kwakwala. Actually, I have looked into this. She's from a West Coast native tribe. Anyways, she has this book out now that people, for some reason, the Conservatives are talking about her like a hero, and they have no idea what's in that book. So I would have just been a little bit hesitant if I was them before talking so highly about her, because yes, she's going to talk a lot of shit about Trudeau and the Liberal Party, but she may have something to say about you. So I think you can't count your chickens before they hatch. Now, to get down to the meat and potatoes, because those are my 5 primary notes from the debate. Again, I don't recommend watching it. It was just a mess. Moving forward, I really hope the moderator situation is sorted out, because I think it would have fixed a lot of the issues I have with the debate if the moderator was an appropriate individual. And even they brought in journalists to ask questions, and usually they do a good job, because that's their job, is, full time. They ask questions to these individuals, and they just did so poorly. It was just, they kept interrupting. It was so bad. Anyways, the big question is, who am I voting for? So I'll go through my process, and this won't take long. So off the top, the Green Party was never an option, and the People's Party of Canada was never an option. The reasons being, the PPC is there is no party there. So I actually don't even think in my riding that there's someone running for the PPC. So I haven't seen any signs or anything. I don't think they're running here. So they're not an option in my mind. Next was the Green Party. The party itself is completely in disarray. They have no proper leader. Their caucus, when they were selecting their leader, was a complete disaster. The local individuals who have run are far too inexperienced, in my opinion, and I'm not going to support a party that's in that state of a mess. So the Green Party and the PPC I put on the same level. There was never a thought of voting for either. Then it came down to NDP, Liberal, or the Conservative Party. So next, I guess I'll discuss the NDP. So the NDP have a platform that I mostly agree with. However, I think that they are overpromising, and they know that they can't afford what they're promising, especially when it comes to both completely eliminating student debt on day one and implementing a full pharmacare benefit plan. Healthcare is controlled by the provinces, so they want to fund the provinces to do it. However, it would be the federal government forcing the provinces to create a pharmacare plan for drugs and stuff that are prescribed by doctors. Because if you're listening from the U.S. or elsewhere in the world, here in Canada, we don't we have healthcare. The provinces control it, but we still pay out of pocket for our drugs and stuff. Some people, like myself, I have benefits through work that cover a portion of it, just like an American would. But they want to implement this federal pharmacare plan, and I don't think that the federal government can actually do that. So, just things like that where I think the NDP is very close. My big issue, Jagmeet Singh crying with the blackface video. I think he's at a point where the NDP have a very literal chance that they could be prime minister. If I was going to support him, though, I would have to believe he could sit in a room with Vladimir Putin, and I don't think he can. I don't think he's the person that can do it. Actually, that's not even true. I think he's the person who can do it. I truly think he could, but the face he shows politically is not who he truly is. And I know most politicians are that way, but the face he chooses to show is a little bit too overly compassionate for me. I don't need someone to hug me and tie my shoes. I need someone to shake my hand and get shit done. And he's more of a hug you and tie your shoes kind of guy. He would be, in my opinion, like a fantastic second in party management. But as a party leader, like he's just a little too squishy. A little too nice for me, which a lot of people disagree with, and I know that. But that's just where I come at it. So then, as I discussed before, I was left with the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party. I agree with the Liberal platform pretty much all the way through, and I agree with the foreign affairs portion of the Conservative platform. The issues for me with the Conservative Party are Erin O'Toole. Holy hell. If he wins, he cannot lead a party, and I absolutely believe that there will be an election within 3 months if he doesn't win a majority, which I don't think he will. I do think they're going to win, but I don't think they'll win a majority, and I think, as I said earlier, the Liberal NDP probably whoever's there for the Green Party and the Bloc will form a coalition, and then I don't know if they'll call another election, but they'll certainly form a coalition and run the government with a liberal agenda anyways. But I really believe that the domestic policy of the Conservative Party, when I took a lot of time to go through it, listening to him talk in the debates and whatnot, it's just so backwards. Their green policy is taking us back decades. Like they're by that I mean the greenhouse emissions and whatnot. It's just out of date. It's Harper's old policy. We're literally 15 years on from that, or whatever the hell we are now, from when they initially announced that. It's just out of date. Further to that, the mask mandates. I think I have no problem with loose federal guidance on masks and vaccinations. I'm fine leaving it to the provinces because they control healthcare. However, I don't think that the Prime Minister should be in a position where they're unable to convince their own members of Parliament to get the vaccine. And the Conservative candidates were not required to do so, and there's a number of them that haven't done so. So that means that they're going into places like senior homes right now and shaking hands with people while they're unvaccinated. And I just think that that's wrong. He can't convince his party to get vaccinated. I think, like I said, I don't think the Prime Minister should be mandating vaccines to people. A lot of people feel that they should, but I don't think so. However, the Prime Minister should be encouraging everyone to do so. And if their own members of Parliament, who kind of technically work for them, can't be convinced to do so, I have no idea how he's going to convince the other 20% of Canada who are currently unvaccinated to become so. So that being said, I have made the difficult decision to bite my tongue, and I'm going to be voting Liberal. Now, I have to do this with a caveat. So there are a few reasons I'm voting Liberal. Number one, I actually am quite okay with how vaccine rollouts happened. A lot of people wish that more stuff went down. I've talked openly on the podcast. I wish that it was done better. However, in retrospect, I don't think it could have been much better, because we are essentially 9 months at this point into the vaccine rollout, and 80% of the country has a single shot, and I think like 77 or 78% have 2 shots. Those are pretty good numbers in 9 months. We're already preparing for a third dose for elders and individuals who are extremely high risk, and it seems like that rollout's going to be fine. I've been tested for COVID a number of times. I never had issues getting tested. The federal government helped the provinces set this up perfectly. I don't know anyone who wants to be vaccinated who can't be, and I think that's the best the federal government can do. I disagree with CERB, however. It's ending at the end of this month, so that's fine. I shouldn't say I disagree with CERB. I disagree with the rollout of CERB and the fact that a lot of people are collecting it who shouldn't be, stuff like that the Conservatives wanted to crack down on. But I'm fine with just let's move on. We already owe all this fucking money, so just move on. Stop spending money trying to fix a problem that already exists, and we need to figure something else out. And I'm fine with that. When it comes to SNC Lavalin and trust, I don't trust Justin Trudeau. However, I also don't trust Erin O'Toole. And I don't trust them the same. And a lot of people disagree with me there, and I've actually had friends who are like mind blown when I say that. But I know exactly who Trudeau is. I know exactly who he is. We've known for like 5 years now. And I voted for him the first time, voted for him the second time, and I'm going to be voting for him the third time. The other thing is, and this is major, and it's not being discussed because there's already been one election since then, but I spoke very openly in the second election for Trudeau, the last one in 2019. But after their first term, their major promise was that they will legalize recreational marijuana, and they did it within a year, and then within a year and a half, it became a reality. And that's something that no other politician said they would have done, and he went out on a limb and did it. And it has changed the lives of tens of millions of Canadians who no longer are at risk of catching these bullshit charges. And it cleaned up our prison system and our prison pipeline in incredible ways. I understand when it comes to gun reform, I don't agree with Trudeau. However, I really don't know how the federal government is supposed to stop crime in the GTA. That's a local issue, and what else can he do other than increasing gun charges? So there's nothing else he can do, but people are pressuring him to do things. So stop pressuring the federal government to fix local gang issues, and things will get better. And that's kind of my position, and that is ultimately what skewed my decision towards the Liberal government, was that the promises he's made, the biggest promise he has ever made, he followed through on. And it was, for my life, maybe not so much now, but certainly back in the day when he pushed it through, it was extremely impactful. And he has changed the lives of so many people. We don't have to worry, because you realize that over 60% of Canadians use cannabis in some form. Over 60% of us were at risk of catching some bullshit charge. That, to me, is a huge thing that is still being overlooked. And people tell me that, I'm looking at it through a youthful lens, or I'm not taking the whole thing into consideration or whatnot. But no, what it comes down to is that changed my life. It changed a bunch of my friends' lives. It changed the lives of millions of people across the country. 60% of adults. It's a huge number. And his government's the one that got it done. And I was basically teetering back and forth on the fence between the three major parties. And that's kind of what tipped me towards Trudeau. Now, I have to also add, where I live, the Conservative government is going to win, and they're going to win by a few thousand votes. And it's been like that since we were districted, whatever. But that's who I'm voting for. I'm gritting my teeth in doing so. I hope that, the information you've got from my podcast, as well as different places, you've been able to make an informed decision on who you're going to vote for. Early voting is closed, of course, Monday, September 20th, 2021. This coming Monday is the big election day. I hope, if you have yet to do so, you get out and vote. I hope maybe I was able to help you in some way. I want to be very clear. I am not making an attempt to have you vote for anyone. I don't endorse the Liberal Party. I hope I made that clear. That's just who I'm voting for. I don't endorse anyone. I don't care who you're voting for. I respect your decision to scrap your card, which some friends of mine have said to me that they plan on doing. Whether it's PPC, again, an individual approached me about a week and a half ago and told me he's voting for the PPC and gave me his reasons. I respect everyone's choice. I hope you respect everyone's choice and who they are voting for. We need to stop the animosity towards one another. Expressing our rights to vote is the biggest and most important thing that we can do. So if you are over 18, a Canadian citizen, get out and vote. If you're living overseas or cross-border, I hope you've already voted, because it's too late to put your vote in now. But every citizen has this right. All of us should be doing so. If you're on the fence about who to vote for, I understand, but it's super important that you get out and do it. So throw your mask on, grab your ID, get out there, enter that vote. If you're confused about anything to do with the voting process, you can go to elections.ca. All the information you need is there. It'll tell you exactly what ID you can bring to vote, how to vote if you've never done it before. It's not a scary process. There's always people working the polls who are super excited to be there. They're more than willing to help you. So get out, do your civic duty, and vote. The worst thing we can do is stay silent. And I think that's what I want to impress on people at the end of this episode right now. The worst thing you can do is stay silent. So, obviously this is coming from me, someone with a podcast who yells into a microphone once a week. Staying silent is not exactly my thing, but it shouldn't be anyone's thing. So even if you're a quiet individual, this is the one way no one's going to know who you are. No one needs to know who you cast your vote for. You don't need to tell a soul. No one will see your ballot. If you're worried about anything like that, if you've never voted before, no one sees it. You tick a little box, you fold it, and then you drop it in a cardboard box, and then they count it later, and it's all good. It takes hopefully all of 5 minutes. If you go, most places are pretty good without. I've actually never waited in line in any election. I've heard people who have, but I've never had to. So hopefully that's the case with you. Have fun with it. If you have kids, bring them. It's important to get everyone involved in this. And please, 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 whatever you do, don't stay silent. So I'm not going to do an outro this week. You know what to do. Keep wearing your masks. Keep sanitizing your hands. Get out there and vote. Don't stay silent. Keep on laughing and keep on learning.